Before 1941, the city of Vilna in modern-day Lithuania was widely known as the Jerusalem of Lithuania. It was a bustling, beautiful place, famous for its vibrant Jewish culture, thriving universities, and busy cobblestone markets. A young man named Abba Kovner was an artistic guy living right in the middle of it all. As a poet, he spent his days writing, debating philosophy with his friends, and organizing local youth groups. His entire identity was rooted in creation and community. He was living a peaceful life, completely detached from the concepts of violence or warfare. Then, in June of 1941, the German army launched Operation Barbarossa. They violently invaded the Soviet Union, sweeping directly through Lithuania. The Nazis rolled their tanks into Vilna and immediately forced the city's massive Jewish population into a tiny, overcrowded, and disease-ridden ghetto. Almost immediately, the German forces began dragging thousands of men, women, and children out of the ghetto and taking them to the nearby Ponary Forest. There, they were brutally executed and thrown into massive open pits. Looking around at the nightmare unfolding in his city, Kovner quickly recognized the terrifying reality of the situation. While many desperately tried to convince themselves the Nazis were simply sending them to labor camps, he understood this was a highly organized extermination protocol. Sitting quietly and complying was a guaranteed death sentence. On New Year's Eve in 1941, Kovner gathered a group of terrified youth in a freezing, dimly lit room inside the ghetto to read a deeply emotional manifesto. He looked at them and pleaded, "Let us not go like sheep to the slaughter." He demanded that they wake up, arm themselves with whatever they could find, and fight back against the Germans. That freezing night marked the psychological death of the peaceful poet. In his place stood a radicalized survivor, fully prepared to use lethal force to protect his people. When the Nazis finally moved to completely liquidate the Vilna ghetto, Kovner and a small, fierce group of followers managed a harrowing escape through the city's filthy underground sewer system. They eventually broke out into the dense, freezing wilderness outside the city limits. Out there in the woods, Kovner formed a partisan fighting group known as the Avengers. Operating from the shadows, they launched absolute guerrilla warfare against the Nazis, blowing up German supply trains, sabotaging power plants, and ambushing military patrols. Surviving for years in the freezing mud and snow stripped away any remnants of their past lives. The constant, brutal conditions of guerrilla warfare permanently hardened these former urban residents, forging them into ruthless commanders. By 1945, the German war machine collapsed and World War II was over. As Kovner and his surviving partisans emerged from the forests, the unimaginable scale of the Holocaust was fully revealed to the world. 6 million Jews had been systematically tortured and murdered. The Allied forces immediately set up the Nuremberg Trials to prosecute the highest-ranking Nazi commanders. But as Kovner watched the proceedings unfold, he saw that the Allies were only handing down indictments to a few dozen top generals. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of everyday SS officers, camp guards, and regular soldiers who had actively and enthusiastically participated in the genocide were simply burning their uniforms. They were putting on civilian clothes and blending right back into normal German society, completely untouched. The failure of the international legal system to punish the vast majority of the physical perpetrators created a massive justice vacuum. Looking around at the devastation of his people, Kovner realized that if the world was going to let these men walk away, the survivors would have to balance the scales themselves. Kovner gathered about 50 battle-hardened survivors and formed a highly secretive underground group called Nakam, which translates to revenge. Driven by immense trauma, their objective was exact, mathematical, and completely unhinged. 6 million Germans for 6 million Jews. Their initial strategy, known as Plan A, was apocalyptic. They plotted to systematically infiltrate the water treatment facilities of 5 major German cities and poison the municipal water supplies, killing millions of civilians in a single blow. But Plan A failed abruptly. After traveling to Palestine to secure the massive amounts of deadly chemicals needed, Kovner was returning to Europe by ship when his fake travel papers were flagged. As British soldiers began aggressively sweeping the boat, Kovner was forced to throw the heavy canisters of poison out of his cabin porthole and into the ocean to avoid exposing the entire group. Kovner was instantly arrested and thrown into a military prison. But despite losing their leader and their primary weapon, the group's trauma-driven need for vengeance was simply too deeply rooted for them to give up and go home. Kovner's second in command, a fiercely determined man named Joseph Harmatz, stepped up and activated Plan B. If they couldn't reach millions of civilians, they would execute a targeted strike against 12,000 captured SS officers held at an American prisoner of war camp called Stalag 13. To get inside, a Nakam member named Leipka Distel faked his identity and played an incredibly patient long game. He secured a back-breaking job at a massive local bakery, chosen specifically because it was the exclusive supplier of the daily bread rations for the POW camp. While Distel memorized schedules and guard rotations, the rest of the group successfully smuggled massive amounts of lethal arsenic into the city, hiding the poison inside rubber hot water bottles beneath the floorboards of their safe house. They spent days meticulously mixing the deadly powder with glue and water to create a thick, highly toxic paste. On the night of April 13, 1946, Distel used his access keys to sneak 3 of his fellow Nakam members into the bakery. Operating in total, terrifying silence under the dark cover of a moonless night, the team frantically brushed the lethal poison onto the bottoms of exactly 3,000 loaves of dark black bread designated for the SS officers. The team designed this infiltration as a localized, unofficial execution, a targeted sentence delivered straight to the men who ran the death camps. The next morning, the poisoned bread was loaded onto the delivery trucks and handed directly to the oblivious former SS officers at Stalag 13. By early afternoon, absolute chaos erupted across the entire prison camp. Thousands of former Nazi soldiers began falling violently ill almost simultaneously, collapsing in the dirt courtyards with severe stomach cramps, intense vomiting, and sudden paralysis. Sirens blared as the overwhelmed American guards and medical staff realized they were dealing with a massive, coordinated poisoning. Medical personnel were forced to frantically pump the stomachs of hundreds of SS men right there in the dirt to keep them from dying. For one agonizing afternoon, the physical perpetrators of the Holocaust experienced the exact helpless, inescapable mass terror they had previously inflicted on millions of innocent people. Officially, U.S. military records indicate that rapid medical intervention prevented any fatalities that day, but the members of Nakam adamantly rejected those numbers, claiming to their dying days that the Allies covered up the true body count to prevent panic, and that hundreds of SS men secretly perished in the agonizing aftermath. Abba Kovner was eventually released from military prison and went on to live a long life as a celebrated poet in Israel. He remained fiercely unrepentant about the plot. Regardless of the exact body count, Nakam achieved its operational goal. They sent an inescapable, chilling psychological message to hiding Nazis across the globe. No matter what uniforms they took off, the people they tried to destroy were still alive, and they were willing to go to extremes to make them pay. Kovner and his partisans demonstrated that when the global legal system fails to act, survivors can bypass it entirely. They replaced the silence of the courts with a clear, lethal signal that reached across